Visceral fat is the most dangerous fat on your body. It wraps around your organs, it feeds inflammation 24/7, and it's linked directly to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, certain types of cancers, and early death. It even makes you dumber. I'm serious. But no one's talking about this. Scientists have found one nutrient that eliminates visceral fat better than anything we've ever measured. We're talking 100 square centimeters of this real fat eliminated in 8 weeks, proven by an MRI. And I'm 46, and I take 40 grams of this nutrient every day. And my visceral fat sits at near zero levels, and chances are you have no idea what it is. By the way, my name is Dan Go. I've been coaching for 20 years. I owned a gym for about 11 years before transitioning to coaching high-performing entrepreneurs. And today, I help thousands of business owners get into the best shape of their lives without destroying their schedule, their family time, or their sanity. Now, you might be wondering, what is visceral fat and why is it so dangerous? Now, there are two types of fat you accumulate on your body. One of them is subcutaneous fat. This is the pinchable stuff. It's the love handles. It's the stuff that you can see in the mirror. It is annoying, but it's not the stuff that's going to kill you. Then we have visceral fat. It sits behind your abdominal wall, wraps around your liver, your pancreas, and intestines. The thing that makes it dangerous is the fact that visceral fat isn't just sitting there. It's metabolically active. It's pumping inflammatory cytokines into your bloodstream every minute of every day. And people with high levels of visceral fat have 2 to 3 times more risk of heart disease, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of certain cancers, even Alzheimer's, and it has a massive effect on your cognitive function. Now, the trap most people fall into is that you can still look lean and have dangerous levels of visceral fat. And this is what we call TOFI, which is too thin on the outside and fat on the inside, or what most people like to call skinny fat. And scientists have recently identified a nutrient that works directly at eliminating visceral fat by targeting it through a pathway that most diets completely ignore. It's called resistant starch, and it might change your life. Now, I know what some people might be thinking. A starch? Carbs? I can eat carbs and eliminate visceral fat? That sounds kind of backwards. Now, stay with me because the science on this is going to blow your mind. So regular starches like rice, pasta, and potatoes gets broken down in your small intestine and absorbed as glucose. The spikes in your blood sugar can cause you to store fat if you eat too much or if you live in an insulin-resistant body. Now, resistant starch is different. It resists digestion and bypasses your small intestine completely, traveling straight to your colon. Your gut bacteria ferments it, producing these two short-chain fatty acids called butyrate and propionate. These two molecules do all the heavy lifting. They travel through your gut-liver axis and signal to your body to release stored fat, especially the fat that's trapped inside your liver and around your organs. But that's not even the wild part. Resistant starch has also been shown to naturally raise GLP-1, which is the exact same hormone that Ozempic, Wegovy, and tirzepatide mimic. Now, what I'm not saying is that eating resistant starch is the same thing as taking a GLP-1. What it does is it replicates the appetite-suppressing effect of a GLP-1 without the risk of side effects or a heavy price tag. A randomized control trial published in Nature Metabolism found that people taking 40 grams of resistant starch daily for 8 weeks lost significant amounts of visceral fat. One participant lost 100 square centimeters of visceral fat in just 2 months. Another study showed a 6 times greater reduction in liver fat compared to placebo and a 300% elimination of visceral fat compared to those who did not take it. And by the way, if you want the exact step-by-step protocol we use with our private clients to lose up to 75% of their visceral fat in 90 days, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment down below with the word lean, and I will personally send you the full protocol. Now, let's get into how I'm actually taking the 40 grams every day and what we're recommending to our clients. So there are 3 types of resistant starch you need to know about, and they all behave differently. So RS1 is the first type. It's locked inside the cell walls of whole grains, legumes, beans, lentils, things of that nature. RS2 is found in raw forms, green bananas, raw potatoes, but the problem is that the second that you cook them, resistant starch structure starts to break down. So you'd have to eat them raw to get the benefit. And I don't know if you've eaten a green banana or raw potatoes before, but that's not happening. Now, RS3 is the one you actually want, and also it's the easiest to get because RS3 is created through a process called retrogradation, which is just a fancy word for cooking starchy foods and cooling them down. And here's the hack that most people don't know. So when you cook rice, potatoes, oats, or pasta, and then put them in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours, the starch molecules literally restructure themselves into resistant starch. So that leftover rice from last night, it actually has more resistant starch than the fresh batch that you actually cooked. And if you reheat them gently on low heat and short intervals, most of the resistant starch stays intact, so you don't have to eat them cold. But personally for me, I don't know if I'm a freak or not, but I actually like cold rice and I like eating cold potatoes. I don't know why. I just like it. Now, my favorite sources of whole foods that give you the best amount of resistant starch, the first one is going to be cooked and cooled brown rice. This gives you the double whammy effect because the bran already has RS1, plus you create RS3 by cooling. Also, one of my personal favorites, cooked and cooled potatoes. Even sweet potatoes, they work even better. Cooked and cooled lentils. Cooked and cooled oats. So you can literally meal prep a batch of brown rice and black beans on Sunday, cool them overnight, and eat them all week, and boom, your visceral fat doesn't stand a chance because you're getting daily resistant starch. But there's a catch. To hit 40 grams of resistant starch a day from food alone, you would actually have to eat around 8 cups of cold rice or 15 green bananas. And for this reason, I like to lean on supplements, and let me show you how. So there are 3 supplements that give you the concentrated resistant starch. The first is unmodified raw potato starch. It's the cheapest, most studied, and you can usually get it for under $10 a bag. So the second is green banana flour. It's slightly more neutral in taste, easier in the gut for a lot of people. The third, and this is the one that's actually used in most of the studies that I just cited, is high amylose maize starch, sometimes sold as high maize 260. This is the research grade option. Now, the way in which I like to take in resistant starch is going to be with my green shake in the morning. It's basically like my nutrient insurance, and I like to put the resistant starch inside of it. I drink it in one shot, and there's a very specific reason I do this, and I'm going to get into it in about 1 minute. But there is one rule you cannot break. Never mix it with hot liquid because heat destroys the structure and turns it into regular starch, which spikes your blood sugar and gives you none of the benefits. Now, wait. Before you go to your local store and grab some green banana flour or eat a whole bunch of resistant starch, I have to tell you one thing. Do not make the dumb mistake I did and go straight to 40 grams on day 1. This is going to leave you bloated for days and give you a case of the man flu. And the reason is simple. Your gut bacteria needs time to adapt, and you have to give it that time. So here's the protocol I used and the one that we use with clients to help them ramp up their resistant starch intake. Week 1 is around 5 grams a day. That's around 1 tablespoon. Week 2 is 10 to 15 grams a day. Week 3 is 30 grams a day. And week 4 is 40 grams a day, split into 1 or 2 doses. The key is you want to ramp slow and let your microbiome adjust. By week 4, you should be at the research dose with no side effects. Now, when you take resistant starch matters almost as much as how much you take. The biggest mistake most people make is taking it with a high carb meal. That completely defeats the purpose because the resistant starch gets buried under everything else and never reaches your colon in optimal conditions. So the best windows to take in resistant starch are first thing in the morning on an empty stomach and around 30 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. Now, I like to one-shot it first thing in the morning, but I also found that splitting up the doses in half, doing 1 in the morning and 1 right before you go to bed, is also a great strategy, especially if you want to avoid some of the GI distress that a lot of people experience. Now, taking it before bed is not random. Studies have actually shown that taking resistant starch before sleep improves fasting blood sugar the next morning. So you wake up with better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, and a microbiome that's been working for you all night. Now, resistant starch is powerful, especially at eliminating visceral fat and building a healthy liver, but scientists still show that about 30% of people are what they call low responders. They take resistant starch, they follow the protocol perfectly, but it barely moves the needle for them. And the reason comes down to your gut bacteria. There's a bacterium called Prevotella that suppresses the metabolic benefits of resistant starch, and another called Bifidobacterium that amplifies them. If your gut is heavy on Prevotella and light on Bifidobacterium, you're going to be a low responder. So we want to stack 3 things. First, your daily resistant starch protocol. Second will be a high-quality probiotic that contains Bifidobacterium. And third, this is the one that probably no one talks about, is to pair it with an optimized Mediterranean diet that I talked about on this video over here. And you want to do this because the polyphenols in the olive oil and the berries and the omega-3s in the fish and the fiber from the vegetables and legumes all selectively feed your beneficial gut bacteria. And doing this will actually tilt your microbiome to becoming a high responder. And one of my clients, Jeff, came to me about a year ago. He's around 52 years old, runs a software company, 2 kids, works out 4 times a week. He considered himself to be a healthy individual, but he had a problem. He was the textbook skinny fat guy. So he looked okay in the t-shirt, but when he took it off, There was no chest, no abs, just a soft belly that wouldn't go away no matter how clean he ate. When we did his DEXA, his body fat was actually sitting around 27%, and he found his energy was crashing every day at 2 p.m. So we made him do 3 things. One of them was 40 grams of resistant starch ramped up over 3 weeks, combined with an optimized Mediterranean diet, and also the 2x workout method that I mentioned in this video over here. Resistance training is one of the best types of exercise, especially if you want to battle visceral fat. And I gotta admit that he pushed back super hard. His exact words, especially because this guy was a keto dude, he's like, "Dad, you want me to eat a starch, like a literal carb to burn fat? That sounds backwards." And that shit happens. I had to send him 3 peer-reviewed studies before he agreed to try it for at least 30 days. Now, 90 days later, he dropped 60% of his visceral fat, his energy came back, and he told me that he hasn't felt this good since his 20s. And that's the power when you have the right inputs matching the right outputs. So here's why this matters. Visceral fat isn't just about calories in versus calories out. It's about the gut-liver axis. And resistant starch is the single most powerful nutrient we have for hacking that system. So 40 grams a day, cooked, cooled, you can supplement it. You pair it with a probiotic and an optimized Mediterranean diet and strength training. That is the protocol. And if you want the protocol that we use with our clients to help them lose up to 75% of their visceral fat in 90 days, subscribe to this channel and comment lean, and I'll send it to you personally. See you on the next video.